Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Mira Charleston Harbor Retrieval Conference Call. Your host, Jim Dyke, will now begin.
Thank you, and thank everybody for joining us today. I want to thank our wine club members. You're such an important part of who we are as a winery. Your support for our product, your support for our fine dining partners has been extraordinary, and we're so grateful. We think we've got a great product, but without you, it's not possible to be successful. We're doing a call today to talk about what we believe is a fairly interesting experiment, ocean aging, or as we call it, Aquaoir. We hope to be able to offer you more unique experiences like this, where we can have discussions about wine and other types of events so that we're offering you more than just wine. We've gotten a number of questions about how you'll be able to purchase the wine from the ocean. We're going to make that available to our wine club members exclusively beginning on July 1st. 12 bottles, limit one per bottle, and that'll be sort of on a first-come, first-served basis. We were excited yesterday as a winery with southern roots and Napa grapes to announce the successful conclusion of Phase 1, being the establishment of a process by which we can experiment with aging wine in the ocean. We also were excited to announce Phase 2, which will be begin in the fall and be putting down twice as many cases. So we'll put down 8 cases for twice as long a period of time, which would be 6 months. We've been excited about the structural results. Fortunately, we've got Gustavo Gonzalez, who's our winemaker and has 18 years in the wine business, making wine that we're so excited to have as part of our team. And we've also got Patrick Emerson, who's an advanced sommelier, and his company is the Communion Wine Club. They, along with a few others, have tasted the wine from the ocean in comparison with the wine that was underneath the water, and we're going to have them share their thoughts with you about it, and then we'll open it up to some questions. So I'll turn it over to Gustavo Gonzalez.
Hi, everybody. Gustavo here, and we're very happy to share this experience with you. We're learning more and more with every sip as we taste about I'm very excited to think about what we could possibly do in the future to continue the experiment. So I want to summarize first what the experiment actually is, and then I'll turn it over to Patrick, and he can give us some observations from someone that's got a very, very good palate's point of view on the differences between the two wines. So just to sum up what the experiment is we have 2009 Cabernet Sauvignon from Napa Valley that was bottled in 2011. And since bottling, it's been aging together in a warehouse in Napa. And we decided to take 48 of those bottles and build custom cages for them and put them in the sea for 3 months here in the Charleston Harbor. And we just pulled those 48 bottles out yesterday at the conclusion of the 3 months, and we're comparing the bottles that were aged for 3 months in the sea with ones that were never aged in the sea at all. So there's a little bit of overlap in terms of aging for these wines onshore. Just the 48 bottles got an additional 3 months in the sea in between. So with that, let me pass it over to Patrick, and he can describe a little bit what differences we are seeing.
Thanks, Gustavo. Hi, everybody. My name is Patrick Emerson. I'm a sommelier and wine consultant here in Charleston. Been in the business for many years, and super excited to have this opportunity to taste these two wines under this Aquaoir experiment. I really like that term, Aquaoir, because to me, wine is all about terroir, and the French use the phrase terroir to, really just, talk about wines coming from a sense of place and having an identity to them. So we just tasted through before the call the control wine, I'll call it, and the Aquaoir wine from the water aging process. And before I tell you a little bit about my observations about the wine, I'll tell you my preconceptions of it was that it was probably going to be very similar. 3 months is not a long time for aging wine in any environment, really. Normally we don't see differences between certainly red wine within 12 months of aging. And so the other thing I should probably disclose is I'm a big fan of the wine, whether it's aged under the sea or in the air as well. So I really enjoyed the Control, the 2009 wine that we tasted first. It is pretty much typical, and most of you as wine club members, I hope, have had a chance to taste this wine. But really delightful Cabernet, 95% Cab, 5% Cab Franc. Has a nice lift to it with that Cab Franc on the finish, but a very sort of dark fruit driven with some oak aging on the palate. Now, in comparison to the Aquaoir wine, it's quite extraordinary and how the difference between these two wines have emerged, and I'm a little perplexed, honestly, about how big a difference there is. But the wine that was aged in the ocean has certainly aged quicker. They look the same. The two wines look the same, but the palate is remarkably different. The primary elements of the fruits, the dark fruits, the sort of wonderful blackberry and cassis flavors are intermingled, and they are more integrated. The tannins are smoother, and the tannins sort of are more relaxed into the wine. So you get quite a different mouthfeel to it, and it's perhaps a little bit hard to describe because initially I said, well, the Control wine was more like a 2009, and perhaps the Aquaoir was more like had an extra year or two of aging to it. But it's still, the Aquaoir wine still maintains that sort of wonderful fresh fruit, but somehow just more relaxed and texturally different. So that will be the main difference that I can see here. And I just to finish, I'm perplexed and amazed at how quickly these wines have sort of taken two different paths, and just both delightful to drink. But I can tell they're the same wine, but it's almost like there's some magic that's happened on the Aquaoir.
I completely agree with that. I was perplexed in thinking, how can it be so different after 3 months? And it's not a question of better or worse. There's just these incredible differences between the two, and I would summarize it by saying that I think the Control wine, the one that was aged on land exclusively, just seems a lot more tighter, whereas the one that's been aged in the sea is just much more complex and broad and more open and relaxed, as Patrick put it.
Yeah, so we were talking a little bit about what the differences actually would be. So essentially you've got the water pressure, you've got a much more constant temperature, but I think perhaps one of the significant differences to the two wines is this rocking motion that the tides are going to have the effect on the Aquaoir wine. So it's not sitting still in a rack, but it's almost a comparison to champagne where somebody's actually riddling it. That means just turning the bottle a quarter, every day or every week to allow the wine to sit and the yeast to interact with the wine. These wines, of course, are unfiltered, so that there is perhaps a little bit more substance in the wines that you wouldn't get with a regularly filtered wine. It may be just that little bit of difference that's making this quite significant difference to the palate.
Don, I think at this point we would love to take some questions if there are any from the callers.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, if you'd like to ask a question, please press the number 1 key on your phone. Again, if you'd like to ask a question, please press the number 1 key on your phone. Okay, one moment while questions come into queue. Excuse me. Our first question is from Jean Wilson with Red Wine Diva.
I was just wondering why you chose the Atlantic Ocean versus the Pacific when you're out in Napa and you're, closer to the Pacific.
Yeah, it's this is Jim Dyke. I live in Charleston, and so that's sort of how it started. But then we started thinking about it, and Charleston has such an incredible history. and we recognized that we were going to be the first American winery to experiment with ocean aging. And you add on top of that, Charleston has really become known as a food and beverage destination through its high quality products and some of the innovative things that are happening here. So it's sort of the more we thought about it, the more of a natural choice it became.
Our next question is from Stan Waters with the Boston Globe.
Yes, Gustavo or Patrick, can you comment on your second process in the fall? I'm wondering, here up in New England, we've got obviously, a colder climate. You're going to do for 6 months. What do you think the effect of the wine will be over that period of time?
Well, we're going to start phase 2 in the fall when we do the new round of bottling with the 2011 wines. And one of the biggest differences between what we have just pulled out of the water and what we're going to do is that those wines are never going to get the chance to age onshore for the 9 months that they're going to be in the sea, right? We're not going to age them onshore and then put them in the sea later on. So they're going to have a much longer period of time in the water. And also, we think the water temperature is going to be just several degrees cooler than what we were experiencing when we did these past 3 months.
Yeah, and I can just add to that too. It's interesting to me when you look at, there's a good question about the Atlantic and the Pacific, because I think we see greater variation in water to temperature on the East Coast. And so we started at 55, and the last 3 months, right now the Charleston temperature is at 70 degrees. So we're really in that sort of realm where it can get a little bit sort of dangerous to store wine in the regular atmosphere. But I think combined with all of the elements of the ocean storing, I think temperature takes less of a role. And that's one of the conclusions that I would take away, just or a theory from this tasting, is that when you are storing wine on the surface, you are concerned about humidity, you're concerned about room temperature, and you're concerned about light. Of course, you're not dealing with light in the bottom of the sea. You have a very constant temperature down there. Of course, the temperature that's the surface temperature I was talking about. I think it's cooler down at 60 feet. And then you have the additional qualities of the atmospheric pressure as well, and the rocking motion of the ocean. So it's almost like the ocean is sort of rocking the wine and giving it this sort of gentle loving along. And so the wine is actually aging a little bit faster.
Our next question is from Mary O'Connor with Fox News.
Yeah, I'm just curious on the wine that's going to be made available to the wine club members. How much will that go for, do you guys anticipate, per bottle?
It's we've got one more piece of the decision-making process, and that's to send it to California for chemical analysis. And then after we do that, we'll come to a conclusion. But I would think that it would be more than $100 and less than $1,000.
Great.
Do we have any other questions, Dawn?
No, sir. There are no more questions in queue.
Okay. Well, that's it. And we just want to thank everybody for taking the time to join us today. Email us, call us if there's something that we can do for you. And hopefully we'll either see you in Napa or in Charleston or someplace in between. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks.
Gentlemen, this concludes your call. You may all disconnect.